welcome to the Trending Now podcast for this final day of January, the 31st, 2025. I'm Louis Butko. As always, it has been a very busy week as we recap the week that was on Trending Now. So let's get right into it with the host and producer of Trending Now this week. That's Manesa Dhanabalan, and it's been a while since we've done this.
It's been a while. How's it going?
Emily was in the last time I was doing this. I don't think there was no show last week. It's great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I usually give you like your flowers when you come on this show, and I say very nice things about like how well you're doing and all that stuff. And again, this week was craziness. I don't know how you do it without like yelling and screaming and pulling out your hair.
It happens internally.
Okay, good. Or pulling out your shark fancied hair. Shark is the name of the very fancy, you were just telling me.
Yeah.
You had like a 20-minute conversation about your...
I got my hair dryer, so I'm like using it.
You're excited.
I like it. I'm excited.
It looks really good. It looks really good. It's been a very busy week, though. It feels like Donald Trump's been president for months. It's only been a couple of weeks. And then, of course, we had this tragedy in the skies where investigators are still seeking clues into the deadly midair collision that now stands as the deadliest aviation disaster in the U.S. in almost a quarter of a century. This was one of those things that I saw Emily Taylor's email like at night, before I went to bed, because I'll check my email just to know what's going on every once in a while. And then like you woke up and it was just the biggest story in the world.
It was huge.
Pretty shocking news.
It's crazy because like the big question that still stands is like, how did this happen? How did how did they not see each other? How did it?
Yeah. How does this not happen more frequently if that's like the case?
I mean, yeah, if it's so normal that like the helicopters do like fly around and whatever, and they're cleared to a certain extent to fly, how did that not happen? And we're also finding out that like 24 hours prior, I think one plane had to abort and not land. Again, don't quote me on this. I got to double check. But there's just so much happening when I'm putting the story together. And there's so much that I can't put into the story today just because 3 minutes isn't enough to say what's going on half the time.
Air crashes investigations obviously can take months. I think they found the black boxes today. That's sort of the next step of kind of what they can actually trace where it was, how fast it was going, all those things. Investigators have declined to publicly speculate, but that hasn't stopped the most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump, with his own theories. Some pretty shocking, like what he's saying, I think is pretty shocking, like who he's assigning blame to or what he's assigning blame to, and B, just how quickly after the tragedy he's using it to attack other people.
Yeah, literally like falsely implying that it's the federal DEI and it's Biden and Obama and like all the things that he's saying. And it's like, look, where is and even the journalists even question him. They're like, where are you getting this from? Are you saying that it's the DEI, the diversity, inclusion, equity and inclusion that's causing this? And he's like, yeah, like basically or something.
Yeah. Well, he said he said the FAA, TSA had to hire people that were intellectually disabled or all these other things. And really, I think for me, it was the idea that it, like not even a second to they haven't even recovered all the bodies.
They're still investigating. They're still trying to it's still sinking in for everybody. And like to just kind of, I just don't feel like it was the time to say that. And first of all, like, what evidence do you have to back it, right?
This is the second full week of the Donald Trump administration. It seems like it's something every day. How do you, as a producer and host of a show called Trending Now, how do you like pick your battles on what we talk about? What crazy thing he said? How can we fact check it? Do we need to like? There's just so many things. Like when he's tweeting or truth socialing at 3 a.m. When he goes on these rants at press conferences that make no sense. Like how have you found trying to cover this guy in the last 2 weeks?
I think the fact checking part of it, it's almost like second nature now. For example, like last night, early this morning, he tweeted that the Black Hawk was flying too high. And like, I think hours later is when the FAA actually decided to say, we're not going to let anybody fly indefinitely for now, in terms of helicopters. So I was like struggling because I was like, okay, was it because he said that? And then I had to like kind of double check and try to fact check that. So when I was putting that into my pack today, it took me a couple extra minutes to make sure like what I'm putting in here, like how I'm going to relate it and like how I'm going to back that up that Trump's saying this. So it's just, yeah, it is a challenge to kind of fact check what he's saying.
Yeah.
Because you kind of always have to do it because. And then I think his press secretary came out and said that is based off of truth. So, but still, you can't.
What would you say to the people who are watching Trending Now, who are watching CHCH, who are listening to this podcast, whatever, who think like, why do they talk about Trump so much?
He's what everybody's talking about. I mean, look at what he's saying half the time. It's always like, oh, did you believe what he said? Yeah, like 50% of the people are shocked, but the other 50% is like, yeah, this is Trump though. We all kind of knew that this is what he does. And there's a lot of like talk about, hey, is tariffs going to happen? Hey, he's doing this. Like he also just took his administration just began. So he's trying to like hit the ground running. So he's trying to do things very, very fast. And that's also like, you know, you don't really kind of get a chance to breathe before you get hit with like, you know, Guantanamo Bay and then tariffs. And then like, you know, it's just going really quickly.
Yeah, moving immigrants, the ICE raids. We haven't talked about that much this week, but, you know, immigration officials are going into schools and churches and workplaces. It's pretty exhausting already.
I mean, like, honestly, I wake up and I'm surprised if he's not trending one day.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what's going on? But there's always things related to him that's still trending.
No.
I just feel like he's just completely taken the spotlight in terms of trending news.
He's doing exactly what we're doing exactly what he wants us to do, and that's talking about him. But we have to, because everything he does has, especially now with these tariffs that we're going to get to in just a second. I know you're very busy, so I appreciate you making time to hop on this little podcast of ours. So thank you for being here. Big plans for the weekend?
I'm going to London. It's my father-in-law's birthday.
Make sure you're on time.
Yeah. What?
Weren't you late to London last time you had to go there?
I was late
you had to do two things
to our dinner.
So make sure you're in time.
What's your plans for the weekend?
I'm here tomorrow, so looking forward to that. And then my grandma's birthday party on Sunday. So.
Oh, wish her a happy birthday for me.
I will. Her birthday was this week, so we're ready to celebrate. Anyway,
happy birthday, Louie's grandma.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. All right. Manesa Dhanabalan, my thanks for joining me. Speaking of Trump, Trump administration officials are moving to fire FBI agents involved in politically sensitive investigations involving President Donald Trump in the coming days. That's according to two people familiar with the plans. Now, it was not clear how many agents might be affected, but officials acting at the direction of the administration were working to identify individual agents who could be terminated, said the people who insisted on anonymity, so close, to discuss private conversations. One day I'll get that word right. Now, among the politically explosive investigations involving Trump over the last 4 years include his efforts to overturn the election, his hoarding of classified documents, as well as hundreds of criminal cases against rioters who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. All right, more Trump news, and for that, Jason Gaidola is here. You were on the Trump tariff story. I know you're back.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been here.
Absolutely. We're going to get to some football stuff because we got to talk about that. But even today, man, trying to track this tariff story. He was in the Oval Office Thursday night, says these are definitely happening. You get Reuters reporting it's happening in March. Like, take us through your day trying to cover this story.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I trying to make sense of it all. I just sat back and maybe Reuters was told, yeah, this is happening. Then Trump's like, nah, I changed my mind. That's the type of volatile behavior you get from Donald Trump, and it obviously keeps his adversaries, if that's how he's seeing Canada right now, at our toes, and I mean the politicians in Canada, they're responding as they've been always responding. They clearly have a plan.
Yeah.
That's being laid out, and but I mean it does feel like it is going to come tomorrow, and where Canadians going to feel it?
Yeah,
that's going to be a tough thing. That's going to be a tough one to kind of pinpoint. But I think at the bottom line factor is, I mean, as Canadians, I'm sure if they're seeing it through their groceries or they're seeing it through the gas prices.
Yeah.
If those can stay as stabilized as possible, I think everyone. maybe it won't. Maybe we won't be in such a panic mode because I feel as long as Canadians can get their basic needs. I mean, I think we can ride this storm out.
Some of the what we're seeing on tariffs. We saw Danielle Smith kind of go along the same way, say 100% on beer. Orange juice. We've heard about that one. That's going to be a big one. You mentioned it. Like, are we going to wake up tomorrow and gas is 20 cents more a liter? Like,
well, I mean,
according to the experts you've talked to, what have you been hearing?
The White House secretary mentioned that. Well, sorry, they didn't say whether gas was going to be oil or gas is going to be an exemption there, but it could be exemption because from what we're hearing is that Danielle Smith. I'd have to go back and check this. I'm sorry, I don't want to say anything incorrect, but there was some indication that it may be on the exemption list, which would be huge. It would almost. But then again, there's a lot of interprovincial.
In terms of what we're shipping over there the most, oil is we're talking billions of dollars in oil.
Lots
a day,
of lots of oil, lots of energy. Lumber is going to be big, so it's going to hurt on both sides. I think this is again. I think at the end of the day, this is a negotiating tactic where the deal that Trump won, the new NAFTA deal, or not called NAFTA, but whatever it's called, is. He wants a new deal. Like, this is just his game of playing power broker, like his old days in The Apprentice. These are his tactics, and he's just gonna be he's gonna be like this for.
Where's Justin Trudeau? What is he saying? How are his words being held up? Like, I mean, we were talking last week about Ford sort of being the face of this fighting back. Now he's got an election campaign. Where's Trudeau in all this?
Well, Trudeau, he spoke this morning, and he mentioned about being a forceful response. So I think I trust that the premiers and the prime minister and the federal government have come out with a plan that most of them have all agreed on. I mean, again, the oil thing is a different story, but I sensed a resolute and a purpose from the prime minister today. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll find out tomorrow. But again, everyone's like wondering what's going to be on the list. What's the retaliatory tariffs? And I'm like, everyone's just gonna have to wait and see till tomorrow. And it's hard to really tell right now. All I know is that the White House did a major swat down on what we thought was going to be a reprieve for a month, and it's like, ooh, but now it's back at it again.
And we're also talking about Donald Trump, who said on day one of his presidency he would put these tariffs in. Day one was 11 days ago. Hasn't done it yet. So is he a man of his word? I'm not sure anyone can,
he's never a man.
People have said a lot of things about Donald Trump. Man of his word is not one of them.
But this is how he keeps everybody on their toes. It's like he's so unpredictable. Yeah. You cannot take him seriously because he's so erratic. But at the same time, he could just be he'll say something and be like, and then he changes his mind the next day. So it's just that he uses it to his advantage, and people need to be cognizant of that.
You know what's not unpredictable? The Chiefs going to the Super Bowl because they are going back.
Safest bet ever.
How badly did my Buffalo Bills get the short end of the stick in that game?
It's tough. I mean, but the Chiefs played a pretty almost a near perfect game.
Their best game of the season.
Yeah, their play calling was just on point. It's just that because it was so close and because of those controversial calls or non-calls or however you want to frame it, those drives led to points. So you can't ignore it. It's something. Again, I understand the officials have sometimes they take too much blame, but there has to be the league, unless the league just flat out doesn't care, which is possible. Yeah. I mean, that's the feeling fans are getting, but there has to be some deep reflection about how, and I'm not just the NFL, but the other sports. You got to reflect on how you're going to officiate this game or these games, right?
What I noticed was the amount of people who are like referencing the tennis review system. Or FIFA with the chip and ball technology that can determine, the technology is there to kind of remove the element of human error on spotting a football. Yet, that's the beauty of the game, is just one guy just from the sideline running in and deciding that's the spot.
Yeah.
I know better than everybody else. This is a spot. I saw it. Like, that's the human, and it's why I would say, we still call balls and strikes. There's machines that can do it with 100% accuracy.
Yeah.
But for some reason and when there's so much money involved in gambling and all this other stuff, is that
Well,
shouldn't they strive to be perfect when it comes to calling the game?
You would think so, but I mean, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Like, there's the amount of money that goes into sports gambling. It's just, this is where we're entering in a territory where people are becoming more emboldened to go into uncharted waters of what we're really talking about. Like, what are we really talking about here? I'm not going to say either or, but I will say this: you're making people think. It's becoming more believable in people's minds when you see stuff like this, and I'm just going to point out to one moment in the game where it not just the catch or the Allen crossing the line, but it was the final play of the game, the one that Kincaid had caught.
Yeah.
On the broadcast themselves, they said even though there was a flag on the field. And then
Mance doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He said.
Yeah. Well, and I'm assuming that the pro broadcasters have. Again, I'll have to check this.
Guy.
Not a stats guy, but somebody's up. There has to be some communication on the booth, knowing even if somebody caught a ball, you can't sometimes you can't see anything on the monitor, but there's indication they're gonna have information saying, oh, so and so caught the ball. They must have saw something saying there was a flag on the field. So when the officials when they say, hey, it looks like they're about to throw, there's a flag, they're indicating that there's a flag on the play, and then oh no, there isn't, and there's no explanation about it. That is where things become very, very dicey, and it's hurting the product. I really think it is.
Well, and we're talking about gambling. We didn't even talk about the Terry Rozier stuff this week.
I mean,
out.
Again, it's
Dante Porter, of course, the former Raptor, now sitting in a jail cell. I think gambling is a huge part of it, and I'm talking about you got a game of inches, and you're leaving it up to human error.
Yeah,
right? And we're talking billions of dollars of bets that were exchanged. You think people would be more committed to getting it right.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
Man.
I know you're busy trying to keep track of this tariff story.
Yeah, no. Listen, the Bills Chiefs thing was a big topic. I was glad.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
All right, just Gaidola, my thanks to him for joining me. Tessa Bennett about to join the show. We will talk to her about all this stuff that's going on in the Liberal leadership race. Sticking with trending news this week, the Bank of Canada has lowered its key interest rate by 0.25% to 3%. Now, it's the sixth interest rate cut in this country in a row, and comes... So what have we been talking about ahead of threatened U.S. tariffs? Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem says our country's economic outlook clouded by the uncertainty because of that threat. But the bank has dropped its gross domestic product growth forecast by 1.8% for this year and next. That's down from previous projections of 2.1 and 2.3%. Tessa Bennett had this story this week. Always love talking numbers, especially percentage points and basis points and all that stuff.
Of course.
But I didn't bring you on to talk about that. I brought you on to talk about the Liberal leadership race, which is going on in the background of all this tariff threats and Ontario election.
Not a great time.
I haven't even talked about the Ontario election.
I know.
In this show,
it's really being overshadowed.
Yeah,
there's too many things.
Pretty sure is Doug Fort's point. Is that he kind of wants it to be overshadowed.
Yeah.
Low turnout usually favors the incumbent. But the Liberal leadership race doesn't look like it's much of a race right now.
No. I mean, there's obviously a lot of talk that it's going to be a Carney battling out with Freeland kind of race, but even looking at the support from caucus specifically, Carney has, I think, now over 60 supporters in caucus, and Freeland has about 26. But, of course, there's still public opinion as well. 400,000 registered Liberals signed up to vote for this, so there is still support to be gained elsewhere, but it is certainly looking like Carney is pulling ahead quite a bit.
And Carney today saying he is going to make axing the tax a pretty key platform. What was the news today?
Well, I mean, all candidates have kind of, for the most part, taken a stance on the carbon tax policy. It's been very largely unpopular. And Poilievre even coined the new slogan, carbon tax Carney. So he's
Clever.
putting that
Clever.
to bed because today in an announcement, Carney said he would in fact be scrapping the consumer-facing carbon tax policy and instead is favoring some kind of incentive program for Canadians to kind of encourage people to make greener choices without having this carbon tax policy that just seems to be tied with all of this negative press, and people just don't really like it.
The carbon tax?
The carbon tax. People hate it.
They want to axe the tax.
They want to axe the tax.
You mentioned Karina Gould, obviously. There was a dropout this week.
Yes. So Nova Scotia MP Jaime Batiste has announced he is stepping down from the race, and he has also thrown his support behind Mark Carney. So that's another vote for Carney right there.
And right down the road from us here, Burlington MP Karina
Yep.
Gould, she's still kicking.
She is. She has a couple of votes from caucus members so far, and she is focusing a little bit less on the carbon tax policy and more on a GST break, kind of extending what the Liberals have put in place now, not quite to the same extent, but lowering GST and also taxing the wealthy. She has kind of pledged this taxing the rich mentality. So we'll see what that looks like.
Are we going to get a debate? I know Chrystia Freeland sort of put it out there this week. Are we going to see a leadership debate at some point?
So there have been two confirmed, one English, one French, that will both happen after February 17th, because that's the last date that these candidates need to put forward their fundraising money.
Is that the $750,000 or just
so
whatever that
that's
was to
crazy.
get into the race?
No,
right?
it was $350,000.
Okay.
That I don't think many people would run if that was the entrance
750?
ticket.
Yeah,
That's kind of
yeah.
crazy. So it was $350,000 total, which is paid in installments. And February 17th is the last date for candidates to put forward the money.
Yeah.
And so after the 17th, there will be two debates in English and in French. Freeland has called for more debates, as has Gould, and she also wants them to happen a little bit sooner as well. No confirmation from the Liberal Party of Canada just yet on whether or not they'll kind of make that happen.
Appreciate you coming in. Before we let you go, the Grammys are this weekend. There's a lot of whether Sabrina Carpenter should be up for Best New Artist.
Yes, I know there's drama, and I know you can only be entered a certain number of times before you're cut off, which is, I think...
Who's going to be the big winner? Who do you think we're talking about on Monday? You got a big prediction?
Well-
Because there's a lot of, Billie Eilish, I think Sabrina Carpenter, Taylor Swift's in there too.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be kind of a collection of women that we talk about, because this is the first year, I don't want to say ever, but maybe in a while, that all 6 artists nominated for Album of the Year, which is kind of like the trophy, they're all women. So I think that in and of itself is an exciting thing, and we'll probably be talking about that regardless of who actually gets the Grammy.
Does Beyonce add to her already record Grammys?
She might.
Isn't she
I know
up
Taylor.
for-
I know she's up for some awards.
And she's won 32 of them. She's won 32
That's crazy.
Grammys.
It's so crazy that it
I'm
just makes
losing
me
my
want to throw
sheets.
things.
If that's not a sign to end the show, I don't know what is. Tessa Bennett, I know you're getting ready for the show tonight, so thank you for making the time.
Thank you. Have a great
Awesome.
weekend.
You too. My thanks to Tessa Bennett for joining me today. My thanks to Jason Gaidola. Yeah, get out of here. My thanks to Jason Gaidola and Manesa Dhanabalan as well. My thanks to Justin Peeler for directing today's episode. And thank you for checking us out. And while you're here, make sure you subscribe to all of our Trending Now social media channels. That includes on X and on YouTube. And while you're liking and subscribing, why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe to CHCH Podcast. You never miss episode of this show or any of the other great shows we have for you, including Newsmakers. Had a brand new episode with Sabrina Nanji talking about the Ontario election. So wherever you found this show, go check that one out as well, or go to chch.com/podcast. All right, one more time, thank you for checking us out from all of us here at CHCH. I'm Louis Bucko. Have a great weekend.